So, obviously crazy stuff. Opposing the Chechens against Wagner is the worst possible scenario for Russia. Again, the Chechens are going to go back and fight. They'll turn right around and head back to fighting in Ukraine, but they've been pulled off the front line for a good, for this. That doesn't help.
No. Oh man, yeah, look at that. Is that people flooding out of Rostov, or
this is no, that's
the cars on the road?
Another thing in French. Yeah, there you go. Hold on one second, I'll show you.
Is
These are the
Moscow?
Chechens coming in. This is the Chechens coming in into the Rostov area on the same road that that they came in on. Let me do something real quick. I'm going to transition you over.
Oh my God.
So I can, like the idea that like, okay, nothing to see here. Everything go back to normal is just bananas. I'm going to start marching. I will draw to military field camps. I don't know what that means, by the way. At least 6.
So, okay, it probably, my bet would be, it will be the same sort of situation that happened before the beginning of the war, where they pretended to have training exercises. And what they basically do is that the Russians are awful at this, by the way. When we set up, when NATO sets up a field camp, it is a city that is built out of nowhere quickly. And it's a proper city. I mean, it's like, it's built with canvas and wood and steel and, the foldable frames and all this. So it's not everything, but it's you can live there and live there pretty, you got your own water, you got your own power, all the rest of it. Russia generally, and this, I've spoken to Russian soldiers about this. This is not, I'm not just pulling this out of my backside. They'll just throw you into a field. And be like, yep, here's a tent, you're good. The chow truck will come around, 8 and 1300 and 1900. Everything else, it's on you.
You're on your own. Right.
I could see that kind of situation happening. Or they could bill it within the city itself, which would then provide more of a threat. And again, that bargaining chip that I contend Prigozhin will want to hold on when it comes to Rostov.
Right.
But we'll see. Look, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's, again, this is Prigozhin, I think, took an undue risk. I think he got over his skis. I really do. I don't know yet. It's too early days, but I just, talking to people and all the community of people that pay very close attention to this, who I've been, that I know over my years of experience working in this region. And a lot of people have said to me, Prigozhin just screwed up real bad. He went way too far. He went way too far, and he can't back down from it now. And he can't, and Putin can't let him back down. You can't go back to, standard operating procedure after he threatened to.
Putin murders guys. Putin murders guys that get too high on themselves, who haven't done anything against him. You know what I mean? He gets rid of people that he thinks are just nipping at his heels in general. So the idea that he's going to let this dude just kind of hang now is goofy.
What are some? Have you got the questions or?
Yeah. So one is how does Ukraine educate its civilians about landmines and traps? They talk about that.
They have a massive information campaign. They even have it for children, because of course, my buddy here. Come here. My buddy here.
Yes.
Patron.
The bombs, Patron, the bomb sniffing dog. Yep.
Patron, the bomb sniffing, what is it, a Russell Terrier? I don't know, some form of terrier.
Super smart dogs.
And they have, absolutely. And they have made him into a cause celebrity, and he, there are posters of him all around Ukraine for everybody, but primarily for kids. If you see something, tell somebody, tell an adult, and they'll tell the military, and bomb disposal will come. It's not a toy, don't pick it up. That's the message that comes from Patron, but it equally also applies to adults, because Patron is kind of everywhere. He's ubiquitous. But there's also there's commercials, and there's training exercises, and it's a big deal here. Munitions, drop munitions, and it's going to be that way for a long time as well. But in the current war environment, that's kind of how they're educated.
Right. Somebody's asking about, does this mean sorties by Russian Air Force on Ukraine will stop? I mean, pause, maybe?
It'll affect it. It'll affect it. I don't know how much, but it'll affect it, sure. And also, by the way, if because of this chaos, Ukraine is actually able to make greater strides in retaking territory, that means that their air cover gets extended. They've been complaining about not getting longer range weaponry, and they're right. But if they're able to actually move like HIMARS or Patriots or different anti-aircraft systems, or Gepards, or whatever, all the different anti-aircraft systems they currently have, which don't have the long range that they had hoped for. But if you can have disruption in the Russian lines and move those anti-aircraft closer to the 91 borders, you can control your airspace better. You can control the airspace over Crimea, and your armed forces can do more retaking of land. So I don't think the Russians will necessarily, I don't think they'll massively decrease their air sorties, because they just can't, they can't stop because they're in combat operations. But the Ukrainians might be able to move up their anti-aircraft to a position where it's just too dangerous for a Russian plane to get into Ukrainian airspace. That would be pretty good. That would be a good development.
And again, anytime you're in a situation where you're having to pull people off the battlefield in a situation where you're already on your heels is terrible. And if you're having to do it to defend your own cities, it's ridiculous. The idea that this can be spun into a good thing or just let slide is crazy. But also, this is, by the way, this is what I was talking about earlier about the Dagestan without Russia is being spray painted on stuff in Dagestan. And I wanted to.
Do you know what else is there? Do you know what else is there? There's a mountain. Okay, so Dagestan identity as a Caucasus nation, unlike the rest of Russia, which is not mountainous, and they're not mountain people. And the Dagestanis are. They're a group of people that live in the Caucasus Mountains. And then the half crescent moon is an Islamic symbol there. So Dagestan as an Islamic republic, close to what used to be the Persian Empire,
that's a big cultural distinction.
We're not Christian. We're not Orthodox Christians like you Russians. We're Islamic.
Right.
So that's a big message to Moscow. Yeah.
Yep. And by the way, during this whole thing, this is the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation has withdrawn troops from the front line in many directions and sent them to Moscow, according to Russian media. At the same time, some of the units are removed from their position and go to support PMC Wagner. So there were a bunch of guys who bugged out to support, just to leave the front line. Again, I don't know. How the hell do you go back to normal after something like this? Are you kidding me? If you did, the idea that you're a strong leader or that you can handle stuff like this would just be embarrassing. Lukashenko negotiates effectively what is a temporary ceasefire. And you just let the dude who came in, who was going to take your capital from
and Lukashenko is such a little toady. It's just it's embarrassing in so many different ways. Oh no, this is
like there's no reset button in this. This is just goofy.
No, there's no reset button. There's no advantage for Russia in the war effort. There's no good look that Putin can put a spin on this. I don't think. He's maintained his above it all status as czar, but he's still brought great disruption and fear and chaos to Russia. It's kind of hard to say that you didn't know if you're the czar this particular instance. So we saw what happened to Nicholas II when he got involved directly in military operations, he ended up getting shot.
What do you
And
tell
his
these
whole
guys?
family.
What do you tell these guys? They just dug up the road in front of their locals. The guy lives there. That guy in that bulldozer, he lives nearby. The Russians sent him out to destroy the road, and then he's got to what? Pour it all back today? You're kidding me, right? Like, and again, the idea that, Biden's such a weak guy, but Putin's strong, and that's the thing about a strong leader, and his strong leaders are strong, and they strong a lot. And then this stuff happens, and you're like, what are you even going on about? This is lunacy. Who thinks this is a working, functioning government at this point?
I remember being in. So I have been somebody who has been trying to spread the word that I think that Putin is not nearly as secure as he thinks he is. And I'm talking about going back years. When I was in France working for Fox after the Bataclan nightclub bombing, they sent Geraldo Rivera in. And Geraldo and I were in the common room at the news center that we took over in a hotel. We made a conference room into a news center, and I got started talking with Geraldo about Putin, and I said, and this was back in Bataclan, so this is what 2015, somewhere between 2015 and 2018 would be my bet. It's more like 17, 16, whatever. Anyhow, I said to him, I said, I don't know if it's going to happen today or tomorrow or somewhere down the road, but ultimately Putin is in real trouble. He can't appoint his successor, and until he does, he's going to have to keep this kind of like autocratic, screws-on approach to governance. And Geraldo was like, I talk to people all the time, and no. I said, well, we'll see. Look, I'm going to get out my crystal ball. I'm going to make a
prognostication.
Prognostication. There we go.
Yep.
Even though I'm risking my batting average, this only goes one way for Putin for now on it. We are now on an inevitable road that only goes to one destination, and that destination is Putin is deposed. And he faces consequences for what he's done to Russia over the last 3 decades, and it will not end well for him. But the most important thing to recognize is that we are on a collision course. It cannot be diverted. Putin will lose power over the war.
By the way, he will. Yeah, the video I'm showing right now is Wagner mercs in Rostov who have just said, "Boys, we're going home. We did it." And people are taking pictures with them. Like this is not the image that Putin wants people to see. They're flying their flag, they're clapping. The locals have come around shaking their hand, saying they're for them, supporting what they did.
To put it in American terms, these guys fought the deep state and they won.
Right.
They won. Ostensibly, if it's true that Shoigu and Gerasimov lose their jobs over this,
right,
then it can be spun by Prigozhin and his ilk, and maybe even adopted by Putin himself. We'll have to wait and see about that. But we fought these guys who have embroiled us in a stupid war on false pretense, and we fought the deep state and these corrupt, malign actors within the Ministry of Defense who are more about lining their pockets than they are about fighting wars are going to be expelled, and we won. And that's how we can walk away from this with some sense of dignity. That might be good for public consumption. In the halls of power in Russia, I think there are going to be a lot of people who are sharpening their knives.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Night of the Long Knives is right around the corner. This is, by the way, in response to all those people who are glad-handing the Wagner guys, the Kremlin and whomever, they put out, like, they're doing a lot of this kind of stuff. Like, on the side of this arena, it says, we are all, let me translate it. We are all Russians. We are all one people. We are fighting one external enemy. We believe in the Russian people and our president. Jesus Christ. Can you imagine that again, Blackwater attacks the Pentagon and Joe Biden has them put on the outside of the, I don't know, the fucking Washington Generals arena.
Yeah, the Kennedy Center.
The Kennedy Center. We support Joe Biden, and Americans stand together against these
thirsty
nudniks.
much.
Get out of here.
No, don't worry. Everything's fine. It's you know what it is? It's Sergeant Drebin in front of the fireworks display.
Totally.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile,
Telegram outages. Bam, and then bang, right around this when Lukashenko and they announced this pullback and all this kind of stuff, Telegram just shuts down, basically. 86.
Yeah. There was all these jokes today. There have been all these jokes in the last 24, 36 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the Soviet Union fell apart, there was about a 24-hour period of time when they had taken Gorbachev custody. They'd taken him.
Yeah.
The KGB and the Soviet had taken Gorbachev and arrested him down in Sochi, and for about 24 hours, suddenly without no warning, no nothing, no explanation, all the channels were just showing Swan Lake, the ballet Swan Lake.
Sure.
It's just on
Black
a repeat,
Swan
on
Lake,
a repeat.
right?
Yeah, on a repeat, because they didn't know. I mean, what do you do? What do you go on television and say? So there's been all these jokes now about well, no, this is really getting bad when they start playing Swan Lake.
Right.
So I mean, it's
we have other questions. Somebody was asking about Navalny being freed if Prigozhin gets in. I think no, because Navalny, he's not going to hand the country over to Navalny. Prigozhin, he knows Navalny, even with what ethics he does have, as certainly somebody who's superior to Putin on so many fronts, isn't going to be okay with Prigozhin. He's not going to not let the international community go after him for war crimes or not turn him over. So I don't see that happening if that happened. Somebody was asking too,
Navalny doesn't get out, Kara-Murza doesn't get out, none of them get out.
Nope. How do you prove Putin's the real Putin from this point going forward? I agree. I think that's another story, with his doubles. We'll see.
I'm always a little bit skeptical about his doubles.
Sure.
I think that's a little bit kind of people kind of jump on
a little overblown.
A little bit more fervor.
Here's one of the images.
Too much fervor.
Here's one of the images. This is coming from a driver in the Rostov area. This is one of the images that I would say point to the fact that it's going to be hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube. This guy's driving along, and this happens. Look at that. Boom. That guy, luckily, is alive. You can see him right there in his sideways car. That is, you don't just kind of go back to normal after that kind of stuff in your country.
Events like that tend to change it. Events like that tend to change your life.
Yeah. And I remind everybody that also
from experience.
Yes. And again,
I remember pretty much every firefight I've ever been in. I remember pretty vividly.
Okay. Here's the details. Prigozhin was offered to abandon the idea of going to Mexico. In response, they had offered security guarantees for Wagner PMC. They also made a promise to resolve the issue.
Did they really say Mexico? They were going to send him to Mexico?
No, Moscow.
Oh, Moscow.
Sorry,
I misheard.
Going to Moscow. That's still too Trotsky. Too Trotsky. Yeah. Too close to home. And that was a warning. He didn't realize. They also made a promise to resolve the issue of Shoigu and Gerasimov, according to Russian media. Resolve the issue. That doesn't mean. Last we heard, they were stepping down because of it. And by the way, just in case anybody also thinks that the Wagner guys are any at all good guys, this is the guy who was leading. This is Dmitry Utkin. He's the guy who was leading the troops that would have gone to Moscow on behalf of Prigozhin. He's the on the ground commander.
Like his second
he's second in command. Those are Nazi lightning bolt tattoos, like a Nazi collar.
They are.
And there's a Nazi crest right here. The bird that the eagle that Hitler flew on the top of all their flagpoles. So just in case, but anyways, back to, but we got to denazify Ukraine. Yeah, and he's the guy to do it. That's who they sent to denazify Ukraine. I trust him. Why wouldn't you? Astra is still funding this in. Oh gosh, yeah, they're still putting out the fires from this stuff. Yeah, this is the oil depot in Voronezh. Hold on. Voronezh.
Where they blew it up to deny him access to, I believe it's aircraft fuel. It's aircraft fuel. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. But if it's in an airport that happened.
Yeah, the Russians bombed their own airport to destroy the fuel.
Deny him fuel, which may have good again. Going back to one of our viewers asked, is there a conspiracy behind this? What's the real truth of what's happening here? One of the things that happens in war is that the unpredictable happens.
Yes.
The old saying goes that every battle plan is fine until first contact with the enemy. So Prigozhin may have thought he had the wherewithal to get to Moscow. Maybe he thought the troops would welcome him. Maybe he thought he would pick up ammunition and fuel and supporters along the way. We don't know.
Maybe the roads being busted were enough to stop them and slow them down enough for reinforcements to show up.
Yeah, the dump trucks being brought out to create barricades. There's all sorts of things that I think once again, to use another analogy, once the Rubicon was crossed, Prigozhin had to kind of push it as far as he could go, but I think, recognized that this was not going to work. He would lose the Battle of Moscow. It would be catastrophic for all involved, and cascade into something that who knows what would have happened. And that's probably why he turned away, because he got out over his skis. This was not smart. This was not smart on his part. And now he's locked in.
Unless it works out that Putin eventually gets deposed and this is part of his strategy and he thinks it's going to work and it's so precarious that he knows it. But the idea that he has to take this, the bluff itself did a lot. But I think he's going to get killed.
Unless he's somebody who loves Prigozhin, is brought in to be president of the Russian Federation in the Kremlin, which ain't going to happen. He's still in the same predicament. He has still betrayed, in many people's eyes, the war effort. So, I am convinced, and I will stand by it. The road is inevitable for Putin that he loses his hold on power because of the Ukraine war. It's inevitable. Prigozhin's fate is far less determined. But I would be willing, if I was a betting man, and I took those odds, because I would, that he ends up in a pine box before too long.
Right.
I think that's. I'm not as convinced of it as Putin's inevitability, but the future ain't bright for old Yevgeny. This was not a smart move.
No. And then somebody was asking, what do you think about the theory that Prigozhin wasn't actually getting shorted on ammo, but that he was saving ammo for this event? I can't see that.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe some. Maybe the last couple of days, but the complaint's been going on for months.
Yeah, I mean, he's been whining about a lack of ammunition for a long, long time. So, I mean, again, I fall victim to this upon occasion as well. But let's try to not look beyond what's happening on the surface here.
Right.
I mean,
it's that simple.
We can do it.
Right.
We can do it. We can speculate. I myself am making this, prediction that Putin is headed for a fall, but that's my opinion, man. But I stand that up with experience and circumstances and knowledge, and it's not just, but. Sometimes, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Right.
And I think that's where we are with this. I think Prigozhin just made he was belligerent and he was furious.
You got a bunch of guys over there who are smoking their own product.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And this is, by the way, what I was showing here was this is a translated clip from earlier. Muscovites are preparing to block the entrance to the city with dump trucks. They didn't bring any. They didn't think of loading them with soil, so they're empty trucks. One of the reasons why they burst through is because they tried this down in on the road to there, and all the trucks were empty. They didn't fill them with anything, so they just fell over. They just, as a matter of fact, they're a little top heavy because they're crap. So they knocked over. Okay, and then there's this. This is a shot of
the level of incompetence is just
At that time, the Bogoyevka checkpoint on the border of the Voronezh region, 180 RF fighters laid down their arms against the Wagners. They did not fight. They just welcomed them in. That was the whole hugs and stuff. They lined up. Now, none of those guys are armed, so I don't see a trust game happening here. It could be just the drop your arms and come out without any arms, and we won't do anything. It sounds like that could have happened as well.
These Wagner guys, look, these Wagner guys, let's not forget, right? These Wagner guys have been fighting since 2014.
Yeah.
They were fighting in the Central African Republic. Heck, well, we're off the radio.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
They took on the United States military. They got their asses handed to them, but they were in combat with U.S. forces, these Wagner guys. These guys are trained killers. They are dangerous guys, and they are vicious. They're battle-hardened, and they're relatively well-equipped. If you're a conscript who was just pulled out of some godforsaken Siberian town not 6 months ago, given a rusty AK-47 and a pair of fatigues, and said you're a Russian soldier now, and you're facing down guys that are killers, straight up killers.
Yeah.
Are you going to go, yeah, I'll take you? And also, by the way, you're Russian, I'm Russian. No, man, screw it.
Yep.
That dog don't hunt.
Yeah, so this is from the Russian side of like their agreement about what's going on. Message from the President, Republic of Belarus. This morning, Putin briefed his Belarusian counterpart on the situation in southern Russia with the private military company Wagner. Heads of state agreed on joint actions. As the follow-up agreements, the president of Belarus, having additionally specified the situation through his own channels in an agreement with the president of Russia, held talks with the head of PMC Wagner, Yevgeny Prigozhin. Negotiations continued throughout the day. As a result, they came to an agreement on the inadmissibility of unleashing a bloody massacre on the territory of Russia. Yeah, I could see how that would be a sticking point, sure.
Yeah.
Prigozhin accepted the proposal of Lukashenko to stop the movement of armed persons of the Wagner Company on the territory of Russia and take further steps to de-escalate tensions. At the moment, an absolutely profitable and acceptable option, that's where this statement came from we heard earlier, for solving the situation is on the table, with security guarantees for Wagner PMC fighters. As previously reported also during today, the president of Belarus held 2 meetings with the power bloc of the country on this situation. So what, Lukashenko is running Russia while Putin's in hiding, according to his own dudes? Okay, well now, it remains to be seen, it remains to wait. For the words of Prigozhin, find out what's going on. Given Prigozhin's stated goals, he would hardly have agreed to stop just like that. Most likely, the main goal, the resignation of the leadership of the RF Ministry of Defense, was nevertheless achieved. In exchange for this, Prigozhin will probably either disband the PMC or transfer them to units of the Russian Ministry of Defense, leaving the post of head. Again, no. I think he's going to take his 6,000 to 10,000 main fighters with him to Africa and other places, and because why would he do? I don't know. This is stupid. Why? Yeah,
I wouldn't stay anywhere near. If I was Prigozhin, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near regular armed forces.
No.
But, this thing that the initial part of that announcement with Lukashenko. I mean, he's just so Putin keeps his hands clean. He rises above it. He's the czar above it all. And then here comes along Lukashenko acting like Chester and Hector the bulldog, you're the best, boss. You're the best.
Yeah, right.
He's such a toady. He's such a
look
toady.
At this. Look at this. Okay, so we got this is, by the way, this is a Z account. These are the people who support Russia and all this stuff, and they are not happy. They're suspicious as shit about this.
I'm sure.
Not a word about the result of the agreements with Lukashenko, but the concessions they should follow too. Once again, everything is according to plan. The story ends, which is like them saying like, yeah, great. Now they're telling like, yeah, nothing to see here. That's the basic premise.
I meant to do that. The guy
Yeah.
who walks into a rake gets smacked into his eye. I meant to do that.
Yeah, the
Yep.
main thing is that the
That
whole
was on
fairy tale
purpose.
circus with downsides, blocking headquarters, and airfields should lead to something. The rebel march did not appear out of nowhere. And no matter what Prigozhin says, shot down sides are already shed blood. So what he means is they shot down airplanes. They shot down a transport plane and 3 helicopters. He goes, the Wagner guys didn't shed a drop of blood, but they killed Russians in the process.
Ape is killed.
And that's
Ape is killed. Ape.
Yep, exactly. This is a message that an agreement has been reached to prevent bloodshed. After that, Prigozhin, weirdly spelling, okay, stopped Wagner's movement can only mean one thing. Prigozhin received guarantees that Shoigu and Gerasimov will at least resign. The political configuration is seriously changing. Persons associated with Prigozhin are brought to the fore. Turchak, Kovalchuk, Likachev, and Kiriyenko. And I think part of the case that's being made here is that there's a support structure of Russian oligarchs who were trying to help this happen, and they were in negotiations with him to do this. Those guys fled Moscow because maybe somebody was onto them, and they bugged out, and that was that. Fighters for PMC Wagner are loading their belongings and getting out of Rostov.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this is
So
them
they'll
getting
go to some
applause.
field location. They'll go to some field location and set up a base camp and.
Where they bomb? What? They just bombed you, stupid. Like they why would you go gather in one place? That part is crazy. Yeah. Anyways, not that they're not crazy. I suppose not for nothing.
So like within the space of like 8 hours, Putin is going to have to step back from his support of Gerasimov and Shoigu.
Mm-hmm.
Which will be embarrassing for him.
Yep. Putin just thanked Lukashenko for work done. But he goes, the president of Russia supported and thanked his Belarusian colleague for the work done. Great, thanks. Great, yeah. Not great work, not good work, just done. Thanks for doing that thing that I didn't have the guts to do or the ability to do myself.
It's over though. I don't. Again, I'm still digesting all of these, as you do. There's new information,
Christ.
but I still don't think. I don't think this is over. I don't think that anybody is safe in this circumstance. No. Putin included. It's just.
It reminds me of that. It reminds me of that.
It's the old painting that I normally have on the wall, but I had to put this one because I think this is really Putin.
Yep.
Killing what he professes to love. The other one that I have of that painting of the Russian, Russian this thing, Russian warship, go fuck yourself.
Right.
But it's done as if it was on Red Square. I bought that for a reason.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely believe that Russia is going to destroy itself on the back of Ukraine. It was a stupid idea to come here. It was a dumb thing to do.
There are a couple of
decimate Russia.
Absolutely, there are a couple of things. One is, all the people who are like saying that because Trump kept classified documents, some of our allies may be less likely to trust us in future because how do they know some other idiot isn't going to become president and then out them to our enemies if that person gets elected? And what if Trump gets back in? And they have a reasonable fear of that. That's been going around over here, and that's a conversation worth having. I mean, he's not going to be president again, but that's not the point. Apply that to this situation with Putin. Apply this, and because it's not just about like spies, information, or trade, but about like we're trusting you to violently protect us, either in Azerbaijan or in Sudan or in or partnerships with Iran or China. Like, how do you go and sit in that meeting again without your head in your lap? That in and of itself is frigging crazy. The second part of it is, and let me see if I can pull up a piece of this anywhere. Is that it reminds me of that Eddie Murphy in Eddie Murphy Raw when he's talking about like the argument he has with his girlfriend and she ends it by, why don't you just go to sleep? With the idea of like, yeah, just take a nap. You're tired. Why don't you just lay down for a while and close your eyes? You know, with the idea that she's gonna stab or poison you in your sleep. That's where we are with Putin and Lukashenko. Like, why don't you just go to sleep? Are you gonna nap if you're Prigozhin at this point? And by the way, they're claiming success in the revolution.
You sleep with one eye open.
Yep. They are gripping your pillow tight. They are claiming the Wagnerites are claiming the revolution was successful because they toppled the second in charge.
Yeah. We overthrew the deep state.
Yeah. Good
It's the same
Lord.
thing. And again, it's I keep banging on about this, but you can't overstate it. The czar as above it all. As a guy who is, everything that's wrong with the situation, it's not because of the guy in charge. It's not because of the czar. It's everything that circles around him.
Yeah.
Because you can't in a power structure that you have in Russia, or it's not unique, but it's where it's autocratic, monolithic. It's this vertical power structure. If the guy at the top of the power structure is responsible for everything else, then when things go south, it's his fault. That's why he's always kept above the fray. And that's part of the entire sociological makeup of Russia. It's not unique to Putin.
Yeah.
So, this, and that's why I also say I think inevitably Putin is now on a road to his ultimate demise, because you can't unring that bell. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's, once he is seen not to be above the fray, and he dirties his hands, or or he's seen to be manipulated by other power brokers within Russia,
right?
That balloon deflates very quickly, and he's so screwed. He's so screwed, and I don't see a bright future for Russia for any time coming.
This is
going to be awful.
The site that was reporting the details of the deal between the two of them on Telegram, his most recent post is: the country was left by one of the richest Russian oligarchs, the owner of Norilsk Nickel, Vladimir Putin. A few hours ago, his Gulfstream G650 aircraft took off from Vnukovo Airport near Moscow to Istanbul, Turkey, right along there with Lukashenko's family. Estimated time of arrival 21:27. Given the circumstances, Putin may not be expected in Norilsk, and the question is whether he will ever return to Russia.
Yeah, Norilsk Nickel is no joke. I mean, it's a huge
organization,
very lucrative.
Yep.
Yeah, a very lucrative site. I've been there. It's amazing.
In the smoking rooms of the security forces, there is a rumor that Shoigu has been detained by the FSO, but none of the sources can confirm or deny it right now. As you would expect, he's been he just wanted to walk over to the window and take a quick look. Wow.
Yeah. Shoigu being arrested would be a big deal.
Yeah.
Be a very big deal.
Like, you're going to negotiate where your guys go home. It's not going to be that the dude gets fired and is allowed to retire if you think he bombed your guys. What, does he get arrested and turned over to you so you can kill him?
I mean,
what's Prigozhin going to be okay with?
There's another thing that has to happen in this scenario, is that Putin has to chuck Shoigu. Again, we go back to the Boyars.
Under the bus.
The Boyars have been fighting. Somebody has to get it in the neck for this awful, failed, catastrophic war. So, and it ain't going to be Putin, at least not to begin with. It may be an inevitability. I think it is. But he's going to try and chuck everybody else under the bus. And if Prigozhin may have risked it all, and it looks right now like he may have lost because, again, he's killed Russians, he's caused this whole thing. But if the narrative is twisted to Putin coming out and saying, you know what, Prigozhin was right. Shoigu has been lying to me, and it's all his fault. And I commend Prigozhin. There is still a way to get an off ramp, to get a
Well, the problem is he said, yeah, I agree, except for the whole basis of the war thing. The basis of the war being a total lie, that there was no NATO expansion issue, all of that.
And he said some, and he said some things that were very non-complimentary towards the czar, and that you keep the czar's name out of your mouth.
Right.
Because the deal is he's above it all, but that also means you can't attack him. Because if you attack him, then you're part of the problem, and you're this.
I mean, honestly, look at this. Look at this shit.
Yeah, they just plowed right through.
I mean, I think the negotiation came.
If Shoigu gets arrested, if it's true that Shoigu gets arrested, then I think we can anticipate seeing Putin change his narrative to, Prigozhin wasn't wrong. He brought this to my attention. I'm going to pin a medal on him. Whatever it is, he might be able to squeeze out and exist for it. But again, he's still going to be seen as somebody who danced to Prigozhin's tune.
Yes.
And was influenced by Prigozhin, and that means that he survives this crisis, but in 6 months, 10 months down the road, because it's unsustainable. He has to be the big boss.
Yeah.
He has to be the potentate. He has to be the capo de capo.
You're not gonna arrest this dude for shooting down planes inside the country in an attempted coup to just force you to replace the head of the military, and you're just gonna you know what, we're good. And by the way, this is the same channel that was reporting the details of the actual deal, which turned out to be true. So as sources go, it's pretty rock solid. Was reporting earlier, PMC Wagner is already in the Moscow region. So they were negotiating from a position of weakness in terms of, Putin and Lukashenko talking to them. They were closer than people thought. They weren't, way down in Voronezh. And this is where
Voronezh is like I think it's like 3 to 5 hours, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah,
probably.
This is in Moscow.
4.
This is Moscow. These are troops laying in wait by the side of the road. That's not something you think it's going to take a day to get there. That's not something that happens in that case. Good Lord. And then this is, I think, that other bombing that happened.
And that's Moscow. That's the capital, man.
Yes. Are you?
Yeah.
And here's the column. They paused the column during the negotiations, so they were all parked on the side of the road, which I'm sure the pucker factors. No.
Nobody.
There they are coming in. And then there's Lukashenko's family plane, where he flew his family out of the country while this took place, because he apparently didn't have a tremendous amount of faith that it was going to work out. And then here's the other guys bugging out.
All the transponders coming out of Moscow in the last few hours.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, hold on. Let me take this over here, right here, and this will. This is several business jets from Moscow to St. Petersburg all at once. Apparently, the elites are leaving Moscow. Yeah, they're all the ones that are aligned with Putin, probably bugged out along with him, and the other ones that weren't, that were on the Prigozhin side, left the country. That seems to be how it played out.
Yeah. Well, Prigozhin was taking the bigger risk.
Another question from somebody was: does Ukraine have enough troops to do this right?
Meaning the offensive,
the push,
and the push.
In theory,
yeah, they do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. They have the troops. They have most of the equipment. And again, if Russia is pulling back because of their own domestic issues, they can get the anti-aircraft systems closer to the 91 border and control their airspace better. So, yeah, they have everything. I think they have everything they need. General Zaluzhny and President Zelensky disagree with me. That's their right, and they certainly know better than me because they're the ones conducting the war. But it would be good if they could get there. If we send them ATACMS, the long range missile systems that we have, they're similar to the HIMARS. They're basically a different variant of HIMAR that is just much more long range in order to like regain Crimea. I mean, General Ben Hodges, the former commander of Allied ground forces, has been very vocal about this recently, that if we give them ATACMS, that reseizing Crimea will be an inevitability. Yeah, okay. Ben Hodges knows his stuff. He's a very, very accomplished general. I've never been concerned about whether or not Ukraine was going to take back all, if all but everything in their, their push for a 91 border. Crimea, to me, I've kind of vacillated on Crimea. I'm not 100% sure. Where I stand now is that Crimea must actually be Ukrainian again, because if it isn't, then it's always just going to be an incentive for Russia to keep coming back and coming back and coming back.
By the way, the Zrada like the pro-Russian version of that counter. This is their new theory. Watch for this to float around Tanky Town. Okay, how about this theory? Putin and Prigozhin staged this drama to ferret out the traitors in Russia, have a fake coup, and see who gets a hard-on, who switches sides, and who starts making phone calls to the U.S. and UK. Hey, this whole thing is super surreal and crazy, so why not? I'll tell you why not. Because you're gonna tell me they're gonna shoot down 3 of their own helicopters and 1 of their own airplanes and have a firefight at the border and pull people off the front lines right during the giant push with Ukraine as a counterintelligence move? Like
not only that, but you send a message to all Russians that we are not united,
right?
That there are factions,
yes,
that they're fighting amongst themselves, which has been something that Moscow has been desperate to hide from the people. Now, come on, no, that's tanky copium. That's all it is. And you're right. There is going to be much more of that. I mean, I love the fact that I hate Prigozhin deeply, but I love the fact that before he launched this whole thing, he was like, yeah, nobody bombed anybody in Donbass. That was a bunch of bull.
Right. He's going to dial that shit back now.
Ukrainians were targeting Russian forces. And that is a tent pole for the tankies to be like, you're upset about Donbass now. Why weren't you upset when it was Ukraine bombing them? And then to have Prigozhin come out and say, well, actually, they're gonna look. Tanky's gonna tank. They're gonna try and cope with this as best they can, and then they're gonna call me a warmonger, and they're gonna call me, yo, you don't see the truth, sort of thing. The truth will out. The truth will out. What will be will be.
Right.
I am comfortable in what I have surmised from my years of experience, the contacts that I have, my being on the ground here. This goes one way. Again, another prediction that I'm making that I feel is an inevitability. Putin is screwed, and likewise, Ukraine is going to be sovereign. It is going to be democratic, and it is going to have all, if not almost all, of its territory returned to it. It's just, it has to be that way, because if it isn't, it's just going to keep happening.
Right.
It has to be concluded. No more wars of independence, no more border disputes. The stretch of land between the Baltic, the Adriatic, and the Black Sea has to be once and for all determined as to who is in control of it. And call me crazy, think that the people who live on that land should be the ones making the decisions for that nation. So, it's going to end with a Ukrainian victory, and it's going to end with Putin being screwed. And Russia then is going to have to do some very, very hard work, and it should. And I'm hoping that ultimately Russia benefits from this war too. In the sense that now it's time to reassess who we are. If we're not empire, who are we? Where do we fit? And what kind of nation do we want to be? And hopefully the Russians will do that earnestly. But right now they're in a spiral. They're in an absolute spiral.
I agree. And on that note, I'll let you go. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks for everybody in the chat for hanging out as well.
Great work yesterday. I watched your stream. I watched all 2, 3, almost 3 hours of it.
Yeah.
As it was kind of breaking. Great job on that. Great job on the community for keeping you posted and all the information that came flooding in. Look, this isn't over, Hal.
Nope.
We're going to talk about this on Wednesday. This will still be going on. The repercussions for it were going to be felt for a very long time. Exactly. And I'll just leave with the point that, no matter what you might hear from people who are desperate to kind of spin a different narrative, and you know who you are.
That's right.
No, this is bad. This is bad for Russia. This shows how fractured, how messed up Russia is right now. And and it can only be a good thing for Ukraine.
Again, the easiest thing is just plug in another leader. Another leader rather. We used to talk about what if Obama did something like Trump did? That became such almost like a meme because it was so consistent. The same thing is true here. Can you imagine what they would be saying about Joe Biden if, again, Blackwater had threatened the Pentagon and had crossed the U.S. border into the country with troops, shot down 3 helicopters and an airplane by itself? Then what you would say about Biden if he had negotiated a settlement where those guys can go make money in the rest of the world as long as they leave you alone, and you will fire the head of the Pentagon because they asked you to. It boggles the mind. Anyways, I appreciate you being here. We'll see you on Wednesday.
All right, buddy. Talk on
everybody
Wednesday.
Check out his vlog.
Don't be afraid to drop me a line. Check out my vlog. I think I got it down to a concise point about what I think is happening here. So, And if you want to call on me before Wednesday, Hal, just DM me. And
I will. That's a great idea. Okay. Peace out.
This is going to be
it's going to be an ongoing thing. Absolutely. All right. Take care. Okay. I'll talk to you later. And thanks so much. Guys. Don't forget to check out his vlog.
Great job yesterday. Check out my vlog. Bye-bye.
Bye. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it today. Lots of moving news. So I'm sorry if I missed out on any of the stuff that was going on in the chats. Thank you guys for the super chats and the support today and yesterday especially. Thanks for the Venmo support and all that kind of stuff. And thanks for the new Patreon people that we've gotten because of this. Because I feel like people are increasingly aware that you're in good hands. Because I actually care enough not to give a shit. I don't care what some people say about my opinion on some things because I know they're true. And I hate people on it riles me up. I have a chip on my shoulder about people who waste other people's time. And so I wouldn't do that to you. And I appreciate you guys being here. And it's just nice that you're here and I appreciate it so much. Anyways, we got a huge crowd today. So new people, give a thumbs up, support the show, like it. If you're a troll, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. You broaden us out into the algorithm in a way that none of us that are actually interested in what's said here can do. So another round of applause for the trolls today. Good luck. I hope you're getting paid enough at the Macedonian hacker farm you work at now that Prigozhin's checks will clear again. And I will see you guys. Let's see. I'll see you Monday. But until then, remember,